Hey, before we get to the show, Sam and I recorded in Sam's car on the way home on I-77 back to Sam's house. We got evacuated from the arena. We'll talk about that briefly in the show. But Sam and I were at the game last night. It was a ton of fun, and we got to see this team up close and personal. Sam and I talked about the game last night. We were able to talk to some of the coaches, the players, and we look ahead to next week's games. Thanks for downloading and listening. Here's the show.
Hey everybody, this is Chase with Sam on the way home from the Cavs-Nets Game 4. We actually were going to record this at Quicken Loans Arena, but Sam, we got evacuated.
That has been a first for me. I've never been evacuated from the arena. It doesn't sound like it was anything other than maybe a false alarm, but they wanted us all to evacuate.
The alarm went off, the lights were blinking, the emergency man was talking to us through the siren.
He was telling us not to use the elevator, to use the stairs.
So we are in the car recording this episode, and Sam, let's talk about this year's Cavs team. We are 0-4. We're looking pretty rough.
Well, and it's hard to know exactly. Obviously, the defense is at the forefront of their problems. That's what the Cavs are talking about. The defense has to get better. They're still having those quarter meltdowns. And, I think part of the problem, Chase, is that they're still kind of in LeBron mode. They really are. I think that when you have a guy on your team like LeBron, you kind of get into a mindset that, well, even though we have a quarter that's bad or a game that's bad, it's not going to kill us. But as Tristan Thompson said the other night, this year with this team, every regular season game counts. If you want to get into the playoffs, you want to represent yourself well, you have to do it every game. Last year it didn't matter. Regular season didn't matter. We heard Ty Lue and LeBron always say, just get me to the playoffs. Well, now you have to play well in these games. And I think that there's a little bit of that mindset from last season from the guys who are still here, kind of in that cruise control mindset, and that's going to be lethal if you don't have a super duper star on your team, which the Cavs no longer do.
Well, I can tell you this, we can stop saying the word playoffs and thinking about playoffs with what we watched tonight. Sam, the Cavs ended up losing 102-86, and aside from the third quarter, it was a relatively close competitive game. The third quarter, as was custom last year, we just got outplayed 17 points in the third quarter. And the Nets just embarrassed us on offense, on defense. We really felt the void of not having an offensive superstar. We don't really have an identity on offense. What it is, it's a bunch of mid-range jumpers shot in the early part of the shot clock and a little ball movement. And that's not a good identity to have.
Right. Well, they want to be, and we heard Ty Lue talk about it after the game, they want to be more of a three-point shooting team. And in that sense, they haven't done that. And other teams have successfully run them off the three-point line. And what's the one thing you want to make a shooter do? Is the one thing he doesn't want to do, which is put the ball on the floor. And both the Hawks and the Nets have done that in Cleveland. And they need to find a way and get a little more creative on offense. And that's not even their biggest issue. Defense is their biggest issue, but when you're at home and in today's league with the scores going up so far in week one, the Cavs, they did a better job defensively overall, but, that quarter killed them. And offensively, this was their worst performance. They seemed sluggish. We heard Colin Sexton say, I feel like, when the Cavs would miss a shot, he said, I feel like we're hanging our heads. So there's a lot to be worked on. And it's not just offense, defense, but it's definitely mindset. That's to me seems like the biggest thing. They've got to get back into a mindset where they feel like they can go out and win games.
Cavs have now dropped 2 straight at home. They're 0-4 in the season. And I think, honestly, a lot of people were looking at these last 2 games as victories, Hawks and Nets. And maybe we're a little overzealous and misjudged kind of where this team is at and how a step back we really took without having LeBron.
Well, I think Tristan Thompson, after tonight's game, said it best. He said, what is it? What's the one thing that you guys got to do? What can you do other than, just defend or whatever? And he said, fight. plain and simple, we don't have enough fight. And he went on about how it was odd that the Cavs did show a lot of fight in those first 2 games at Toronto and at Minnesota, 2 good teams playing them in their building, and the Cavs really gave them a run for their money. They showed a lot of moxie, a lot of determination, and these last 2 games at home, that has not been the case. They've been almost like the 90-pound weakling, and it just, there's very little energy in the building right now because they're not playing well. They haven't looked pretty in either game, and it's just not been a great experience for them. The great thing about the NBA, to put a little bit of a positive spin on it, is that there are 82 regular season games.
It is a long season.
And you have a while to figure things out, and they're very far from figuring things out right now. I thought that they would, Chase, our last podcast, I said they'd be 3-0 after the first 3 games. Did I really think they would be? No, but I thought they would be 2-2 after these first 4 at worst. So I think a lot of it is just the newness of everything. For you take the greatest player in the world off your team, it's a huge adjustment, and it's obviously even bigger than a lot of people thought.
This is a young team. Well, it's a mix of young team and veterans, but Ty Lue's opting to play a lot of young players.
Right.
And this is what Colin Sexton had to say about the veteran help that he receives in game and in the huddle.
They're telling me what they see because it's different when you're out there. So they're telling me what's open and what's not, and how to pick up on defense and certain things like that. So it's good to have the veterans on the bench and helping you out.
Asked him that in the post-game presser. Sam, what is your take on Colin Sexton as a rookie? Do you see him lost as he may look sometimes? Do you see him trying to do too much? Do you see him? What's your impression of Colin Sexton through 4 games?
I think he's adjusting, adapting. He's not going to get the opportunity of a guy who's like Trae Young, who went in there and it's like, you're our starting point guard, win, lose, or draw, you're playing 35, 40 minutes a game. So he's getting used to a role, having come to a team that has an older point guard ahead of him, and George Hill for the time being. And I think it's some adjusting from a mental standpoint for Colin in terms of, hey, I'm not used to coming off the bench, and when I come off the bench, I'm not exactly sure, who I'm going up against. It's a big adjustment when you're 19 years old. So, but I like what I've seen from him from time to time. I mean, tonight he was 6 of 10 shooting, 14 points, tied, Kevin Love and
YMCA Clarkson
and YMCA Jordan
as I
Clarkson,
like to call him.
for the scoring lead. They all had 14 points, but
one of the things that I appreciate about his play is that he tries hard, he hustles, and that
right.
We didn't see a lot of that kind of effort, that energy, even though the players were trying hard last year. It's definitely a different style that the Cavs are used to, which I think is a good thing. And actually in post-game, I got to ask Kevin Love if he saw a similarity between his Sexton's play style and Russell Westbrook's play style, and this is what he said. Kevin, you play with Russell Westbrook at UCLA. Do you see his style similar to Colin Sexton's in any way?
No, different players, I see.
Very quick, very short, no, different players.
Yeah, Sam, very to the point there, Kevin was.
Did you sense a little frustration with Kevin there, or kind of unpack that short answer for us?
No, sure. Look, he's a guy who's been to 4 straight finals. The 2 guys on the team who seem the most frustrated and are really, really bothered. Everybody's bothered, but the 2 guys who seem clearly and are speaking their minds and are wearing it in their body language after games in terms of, just you can tell how frustrated they are, Kevin Love and Tristan Thompson.
And honestly, we saw Hood walk out before we even got to the locker room. Yes. Korver wasn't all smiles and roses in his interview.
No.
Jordan Clarkson declined. And it was just, these players aren't happy.
It was the veteran guys, The younger guys are still enjoying the playing time and the experience of playing in the NBA. But the guys who have been to 4 straight finals, or at least a couple straight finals, you can see it on them. And look, I'm going to assume that they're going to start playing better. I really am. I think that there's still something in this team that they'll play better, but I don't know that their defense will ever, with the current construction, will ever be good enough to really challenge for a playoff spot. I mean, right now, you and I were talking after the game, and you said, and I agreed with you, this looks like a 20-win team, 20-62 or something, and right now they do. So I think you need to give them some more time. As Colin Sexton said, are you discouraged? And he said, nah, everybody loses.
Yeah.
So, everybody's going to lose games this year. There's going to probably be, other than like Golden State, everybody will go on a 4-game losing streak, probably. So you get this out of the way and you get things figured out. Again, the only promise ray of hope that you have to hang your hat on right now is that there are 78 more of these.
Yeah.
And that's what the Caps have to hang their hat on. They got another game tonight, Thursday night in Detroit, and quick turnaround. And you go up there and you win, and you feel good about yourself, and then all of a sudden, then you start to see what works. But they've got to find something that works, and get moving and get a win and get to experience a victory.
Sam, I don't think this is going to be the only 4-game losing streak the Cavs experienced this year.
I would agree with you there, but
outlook is very bleak. We played, and it could be even longer, Pistons. And
we got Pistons, Pacers, Nuggets, and I think there's somebody else in there. Or is it
combined 2 losses maybe in those 3 teams?
Yeah, Nuggets are unbeaten.
Pacers.
Pacers are tough, and then Detroit, they look kind of refreshed, reinvigorated with Dwayne Casey and Blake Griffin's coming off a 50-point game. So the Cavs have their hands full, and they've got to get it figured out pretty quickly. As Tristan said, it's a great line. With this team, every game counts.
Sam, final question here. Was Ty Lue kind of exposed in tonight's game? You look at the roster on paper, the Cavs on paper seem to have a better team than the Nets. And just, once again, third quarter halftime adjustments. When is enough with Ty Lue in this?
Well, I think you got to go to mid-season anyway and see what develops. But yeah, I mean he'll get on the hot seat real quick if this continues. But they're not going to pull the plug on anything now or probably within the next month or two. But at some point, you have to decide: is it just because the one thing I will say is Tristan Thompson's correct, is that the players aren't showing enough fight yet. Now, is that because they're not responding to the coach? Is that because his X's and O's aren't working out, or what? But he'll be on. Yeah, I mean, it won't take long for him to get on the hot seat if they're 2-12 or something along those lines. I don't know that he's been exposed. I think that there's a lot of adjusting to do when you lose. LeBron James, there's a lot of adjusting to do from the coaching staff, the players, everything, and that right now is being exposed. The fact that they don't have their super duper star to carry them.
Yeah. All right. Well, Sam, we'll talk again here next week. Talk about the week 2 slated games again to week 3. Sam, travel safe. Thanks for the incredible time at the game, and we'll catch you later.
I look forward to it very much, and hopefully the Cavs fans who are listening, first of all, thank you for listening, and secondly, just hang in there. We'll see what happens. I don't think it can get worse.
Nope. Check Sam out at Amico Hoops on Twitter and then amicohoops.net. You can find me on Twitter at The Chase Smith. Visit PressPlayPodcast.com for all your podcast needs. Sam, thanks again. Mike Breen, take us out!
Congratulations, Cleveland. Your decades-long wait is finally over. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.